family-owned shop in Loganville, Soesby's Garage for all your automotive repair needs. We service all makes and models, foreign and domestic. We repair engines, alternators, brakes, alignments, AC systems, and more, using certified technicians with over 90 years of combined experience. We also offer same-day service for some repairs. Soesby's Garage, 200 Bay Creek Road in Loganville. Dependable, honest, and fair. Look us up on Google or Facebook. We'll take good care of you.
Broadcasting live from the Subaru of Gwinnett studio inside the Sonesta Gwinnett Place Atlanta Hotel. It's time for Case in Point, presented by Paradigm Security Services. We are the cornerstone of security in the Southeast.
Hey everybody, welcome to Case in Point, presented by Paradigm Security Services again, brought to you in part by Soesby's Auto Supply, or Auto Shop. I am your host, Rick Strawn, president of Paradigm Security Services, and we are excited to be with you today on Business RadioX. We're coming to you today from Subaru of Gwinnett, Atlanta studio, located in beautiful Sonesta Gwinnett Place Atlanta Hotel in Duluth, Georgia. Each week we plan to feature businesses in the Atlanta area, especially those that serve Gwinnett County. And while all businesses have security issues and concerns, not all are about physical security. And we'll touch on that and all aspects of security as we go through the course of each show. Our guest today, I'm glad to have Andrew Carnes. He's Vice President of Economic Development and Partnership Gwinnett. Quite an active role you've got there, Andrew.
Thanks, Rick. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate it. Let's start off with kind of my standard, who is Andrew Carnes?
Of course.
How did you get here?
Yes, so Andrew Carnes, President or Vice President of Economic Development, just gave myself a promotion. That was great.
That works.
But I started out in economic development actually in college. I figured out what economic development was whenever I was at Armstrong Atlantic in Savannah working with the ports and that sort of thing. Following that, I came back to Cartersville, where I was from, started really interning and trying to learn the ropes in Cartersville and doing economic development there. Following that, went up to Dalton, worked my way up, and ultimately led economic development in Dalton, Georgia, and I was there for 4 years.
That should have been challenging.
It was. Whenever I got there, it was we hit 15% unemployment rate, and I tried to figure out, what did I get myself into. But Dalton had the bones of the carpeted industry and the floor covering industry for many, many years, and so we had the tools and the resources that we needed to really break into other markets and other industries. And so with Volkswagen being in Chattanooga, and then Daimler being in Alabama, and then over in the Carolinas with BMW, really sat in the automotive corridor. So we went a lot after automotive companies. And so I was up there, like I said, for 4 years. Ultimately, whenever I left, unemployment rate ended up being around 8%, and which was good. And so it was a great team effort. And then I got a call from Nick Messino and said, "Hey, do you want to come down to Gwinnett and build a project team?" So I came down to Gwinnett, relocated down, and ultimately had the opportunity to work with a phenomenal team over at Partnership Gwinnett, and then Nick Messino got promoted to chamber president, and then he's given me the opportunity to essentially run Partnership Gwinnett now.
Yeah, and that's kind of that's an awesome position that you've managed to come into, because I know Nick is one of those personalities that's totally different than any kind of personality that you'll ever run into. And it's interesting the way that your personality is a fantastic personality. It's just,
Thank you.
You really get along with people. It's very outgoing. So you're a perfect fit to step in those shoes and kind of slide him off to the side, in which he'll never be slid.
Nope.
Well, I appreciate it again coming on. Let's just start out with, what is Partnership Gwinnett, and why is it a critical piece of the Gwinnett ecosystem?
Yeah, great question. So Partnership Gwinnett, so we're the economic marketing arm for Gwinnett County as well as all 16 cities. And so Partnership Gwinnett was created to essentially implement their strategic strategy for Gwinnett County as well as all 16 cities. And so what does that mean? That we took essentially feedback from citizens, elected officials, regional leaders to build a strategic strategy around economic development. And so we built that with the help of Market Street Services. And then we have essentially, we focus on 3 goal areas. And our 3 goal areas are recruit, retain, and expand businesses in certain targeted industries, as well as entrepreneurship. And we do have a director of economic development that leads that effort. The second one is workforce development, and we do have a director that leads the goal to workforce development. So we want to make sure that we have the right people in Gwinnett and the surrounding area to basically fill these jobs that of the companies that we're recruiting in, but more importantly, our existing industry that we currently have here as the industry and the landscape changes over the next couple of years. And then our goal 3 is ultimately, I like to say it, is everything that you can't measure, or it's hard to measure. It's a lot of conversations around redevelopment, because as Gwinnett County, and whenever I say Gwinnett County, I mean Gwinnett County as well as all 16 cities, because all the cities are in Gwinnett County.
Right.
And so our goal is to encourage and support redevelopments within these different areas. And so those are the main areas that we focus on a daily basis.
Well, that kind of gives you the idea of what services Partnership Gwinnett provides. What are the types of companies that you work with? Yeah,
so I talked a little bit about the 5 targeted industries. So 5 targeted industries is IT solutions, healthcare science, regional corporate headquarters, and then the last 2 are manufacturing and supply chain. And the reason that we focus on those 5 targeted industries is because essentially that's what Gwinnett is already good at. Those are the types of companies that we already have. That's the workforce that we already have trained for these companies that are growing and expanding in Gwinnett. And so essentially those are the 5 targeted industries that we work on. So you ask about different companies that we've worked with. So a couple of project wins that we've had in the past and recent announcements, I guess, is probably one of the ones that got the most press is Amazon.
Absolutely.
We had the opportunity to work with Amazon and creating and truly telling them why Gwinnett is a great place to do business and how business friendly we are, and talking about our workforce and that sort of thing. And so in the Evermore CID area, unincorporated Gwinnett County, they are actually building it's actually a 4-story distribution center. And so the footprint is 640,000 square feet footprint, but it's 4 stories. So you're looking at a little over 2.5 million square feet of distribution space. And so that's one of the projects that we were fortunate enough to work on. Another project where obviously that was distribution. Another project is OS National. OS National, they're an existing Gwinnett company, and so I always like to focus on our existing companies that we have here. But they're creating about 1,000 jobs currently and continuing to grow, which is fantastic. One of the most recent ones, River Cold, is an international company, and they already had a small presence here in Gwinnett, but they're starting the manufacturing, which that is ultimately the goal is for them to do the manufacturing here in our taxing jurisdictions. And so those are just a couple of companies that we work with on a daily basis. And the good part about it is we have about 15 projects that are currently in our what we call an announcement pipeline. And so that's announcement pipeline means that the companies internally have already told us that they are relocating or growing and expanding in Gwinnett, and but we just haven't announced it yet. And it might be because they're a publicly traded company, or that if they're not ready. Exactly. And so we announce them whenever they're ready. Ultimately.
Absolutely. Well, there are so many, and there's so many different companies that you would have brought in the last 2 years that I know of just off the top of my head that are just fantastic, and the growth and stuff in Gwinnett County. But and I know part of the answer to this, and we'll talk about it. But what makes Gwinnett a great place for companies to locate and expand? Yeah,
so a number of reasons, and it really depends on the business model of the company, because every single company, there are drivers, is what we call drivers, behind the company, either growing, expanding, relocating, and so forth. And so, in regards to distribution, connectivity is a huge part. That we have a vein essentially going directly, and it splits Gwinnett County, which is I-85. The proximity to the world's most traveled airport. the proximity to the Georgia ports. But also, I think a huge part is the business-friendly atmosphere that we have created for businesses to grow and expand in our area. And then the last point that I'll mention is, and I'll talk a little bit more about the diversity and that sort of thing. But the diversity, and whenever I say diversity, I mean the diverse types of people, the different languages, the over 100 different languages that are spoken in Gwinnett County Public Schools. But also the types of workforce that we have here is key for the success of these companies that are looking to grow and expand. They need to make sure that first and foremost that they have the people here that can essentially do the job that they're looking at doing for their process.
Well, and another thing that kind of tagged in there is there are so many tax incentive districts that Gwinnett has really worked hard to get in place to help bring these businesses in there. Can you talk a little bit about those?
Yes, definitely. So we have a number of different tax incentive districts. I mean, obviously there's less developed census tracts, there's opportunity zones, there's federal opportunity zones now that companies are looking at to kind of get that edge and that sort of thing. But something that I haven't touched on that I mentioned it a little bit with the Amazon is the community improvement districts that we currently have around Gwinnett County and the fantastic job that our community improvements do for their members, essentially. I mean, making sure that the landscaping is beautiful, making sure that the security aspect of it is key. And really keeping that standard up for the surrounding businesses within those community improvement districts.
We do Gwinnett Place CID, Community Improvement District, and then also Gateway 85
right
there with the old Gwinnett Village. We do that also. I know that there are so many great CIDs, Community Improvement Districts,
mm-hmm.
that really work hard to enhance and improve our looks and overall in the county, and which helps to draw these companies.
Very much so.
You've got to look like you want the business, look like the business is there in order to get the business.
Exactly. Whenever you're driving up, whether it be 85, whether it be 78, having the exits, with the landscaping, and it's a safe area. I mean, it's very welcoming, especially because companies look at those kind of things.
Absolutely.
They look at those things whenever they're looking at expanding, relocating into our area. Is they pull the data and they pull the statistics and that sort of thing. So that is a key part that we don't tend to pay attention to because we have so many different CIDs that focus on that, and they do a great job.
Yep, absolutely. Well, what as far as talent attraction, that's a hot topic across the county,
mm-hmm.
and we were just talking about a lot of the looking to try to get jobs and talents and so forth. What is Gwinnett doing to attract top talent to the community, like schools developments, entrepreneurship, innovation?
Yeah. So Adam Ferran, who is our direct force for workforce development, Adam does a fantastic job, and the way that I like to describes Adam's role is he's the concierge service for companies that are looking to grow and expand in our area. He is the link between our technical schools, our career academies, our universities, and just our K through 12 school system and industry. If we have a company that's coming in and they're looking for a special skill set that we may have or we may not have, they sit down with Adam, go through the curriculum and really what they're looking for. And Adam works with our educational partners in hopes to creating a curriculum or even convening and catalyzing those folks together to kind of get around the issue to make sure and make that company feel comfortable that we do have that workforce here and we can support them once they do locate here or they expand here.
Yeah, and one of the great things that we have as an advantage with this county is we have places like Gwinnett Tech, Georgia Gwinnett.
Very much
We've
so.
got these schools they're really targeting what's needed as far as this workforce that's coming in, what these companies are needing. And that's where I've noticed that Partnership Gwinnett stays in contact a lot with these schools, letting them know what the companies are looking for that want to come here, what you're looking down the road. These are the companies that are wanting to come here. And you work and coordinate to get that workforce in process, so that if you don't have it now, it's there. when they want to come.
Exactly. Well, and also, whenever we talk about workforce, there's a number of ways to attract talent, and not just on the educational side.
Absolutely.
We're talking, and you can see it around Gwinnett County in a number of our cities. Duluth, I know, Peachtree Corner, Suwanee, all the way from Lawrenceville to Sugar Hill to Norcross. They do a fantastic job in creating a sense of place. And, you can see developments. There's over $3 billion coming out of the ground currently in unincorporated Gwinnett County, but as well as our 16 cities. And so one of the major developments that I know Gwinnett County unincorporated has been working on is Project Revel, which is at the Infinite Energy Center, right outside the Chamber facility.
Awesome development.
It's going to be truly amazing. Gwinnett County has hired North American Properties, who's developed Avalon, as well as Colony Square and a number of others, and they're bringing them in as their master developer. And I think there was a press release that went out a couple of weeks ago of the type of developments that are going to be there. But essentially, it's kind of where we get intertwined into that is there's going to be over 800,000 square foot of office that's going to be created with this development, and so. Obviously Gwinnett County is doing a massive expansion in regards to the arena in the center to bring more people. There's already 1.2 million people that activate that space on an annual basis, and so I know there's I think we're getting ready to cut a ribbon on a parking deck, the 2,400 car parking deck, and then right beside that is that 800 car parking deck. But I think we're getting ready to do the ribbon cutting on that this week or next week, if I'm not mistaken. But they're essentially once we're able to utilize that 2,400 car parking deck, we're going to start chewing up the surface parking and start the build out and really activating the space. And so whenever we talk about talent development and recruitment of talent, activating spaces, I think is really key for the types of employees that we're looking to attract, the higher end employees, but also just a place to go and go to a concert and then afterwards go out to eat with your family and that sort of thing. So I think it's really key.
Well, and it's things like what Lawrenceville is doing. We've had so many fantastic developments of town centers, Suwanee being the beginning of it, and then it just goes from Norcross to, and now what Lawrenceville is doing with the Aurora Theater.
Exactly.
It's the things that, when the people that are outside the United States and the corporate people, they look at what kind of an entertainment system, what kind of a home type life are they going to have when they look at where they want to move their facilities and their headquarters, and they look at places like Lawrenceville, with all that they're doing with the theater, the arts, our Hudgens Center,
very much
all
so.
of this stuff. That's really much more of an international flair than what we used to be.
It all plays a factor in making decisions to expand or relocate a company into a particular area. The C-suite of these companies, they're looking at that. They're looking at they're looking at all the factors that their employees are going to be looking at to making sure whenever if they go outside, they want to be able to walk to different destinations, go get lunch and come back.
They want to feel safe.
Exactly, which is always key.
Well, and of course that's where the security comes in. It's it's a matter of, it's not that necessarily there's a big crime rate, but it's perception is reality.
Of course.
And anything, especially in security, and if you have the perception that it's unsafe, then whether it is or isn't, it's going to be unsafe.
Right.
And you're not going to want to go there, and it's going to take it down. But if you have that perception that of the safety, then it becomes safe. People don't come in there to do their crime. They go elsewhere, and people have a tendency to walk around and enjoy it, which builds our county the way we want it to be built.
Well, and Rick, you know this as well as I do. It's if a place is really safe, then there's not a lot of attention paid or to that particular place. But if it's an unsafe place, then everybody pays attention.
Oh, absolutely.
And there's so even though that there's not a lot of talk around the safety aspect of it, we want to make sure that we keep that top of mind on how safe Gwinnett County is. Absolutely.
And it's the broken window effect. If you let things run down, you've got graffiti all over everything. It's there may not be a whole lot of crime there, but it looks unsafe. So the idea of the CIDs and everything is to get in there, get this thing cleaned up, and have it look nice and draw these businesses.
Exactly.
Well, we talked a little bit a few minutes ago about the demographics of Gwinnett County and how it's changed, and it's just been a very rapid change through the last few years. What advantage does Gwinnett's diverse population give to the community?
This is another part of recruiting companies and helping companies grow that we try to talk a lot about, and we were trying to educate a lot of the citizens, but also educate a lot of our leaders on how important this really is. Because if you look at the demographics of Gwinnett County currently, it's exactly what the rest of the United States is going to look like in 2040.
Absolutely.
And so the interesting part is we have companies, and we've kind of come up with a tagline. It's called the Living Laboratory. And so really what the Living Laboratory means is if you as a company can locate in our taxing jurisdictions and truly create that culture within the diverse community that we currently have, then you are going to be able to deploy this business model to the rest of the United States in 2040. And so that's why we call it a living laboratory. And I'll give a quick example of what I mean by that. So CarMax, we had a recent announcement with CarMax. They're doing their first ever experience center down in Peachtree Corners, the city limits of Peachtree Corners. And essentially one of their major requirements is that 35% of their employees needed to speak multiple languages. And that was a huge selling point whenever they started.
Challenge too.
Exactly. So and not just 2 languages. I mean, we're talking a wide variety of languages because they're talking to people from different backgrounds across the United States. And so something else that we like, a statistic that we like to talk about, is our diversity index. And so what the diversity index is, if 2 people were to randomly meet in Gwinnett County, there's an 80% chance that they would be from a different ethnic background. And I think that is a crazy statistic to think about as we continue to think about 1 in 4 people in Gwinnett County are born outside of the United States. And so we talk a lot about the diversity, and the reason that we talk a lot about the diversity is it's important for the culture within Gwinnett County, but it's important to these companies. Ultimately, they're looking for a diverse employee base, and having the different backgrounds and the different experiences are key to these leaders of these companies. Well,
and it also presents a big challenge too. And one of the challenges I've seen in business is with this diversity in all these different cultures is getting them to communicate, getting them to work together, getting them to solicit and sell to each other, to bring it into the mosaic that we really have here in this county, is getting everybody. And it's coming along. It's way farther along than it was 5 years ago.
Very much so. And we're actually, we have other places around the United States that are looking at Gwinnett County as a model. And so we are very, very careful to make sure that we are moving in the right direction, making the right decisions for our community and that sort of thing, because ultimately we have a lot of eyes on us right now around the United States because of the diverse population that we have, because these other taxing jurisdictions are looking at us to see how we handle the diversity and the change in the majority minority and that kind of stuff.
Well, and it's one of the things you pointed out a while ago. We are where the rest of the nation, most likely, the biggest part of the nation is going to be in 20 years.
Right.
So it's what we do is setting an example and setting the precedent for what it's other people to model themselves after. And if we do it right, which we're doing it right, then it's a good model.
Right.
If we don't do it right, then it gives them a model, but it's not necessarily the model that we want to project to get these businesses in here.
Exactly.
So got to keep it on the right track.
That's the truth, and I think we are on the right track.
I do too. Gwinnett County, wow, it's almost a million people, and we are still growing. How critical are transportation improvements to the continued success and the growth of the county and the region? Because we just went through an issue with the transportation, and a lot of us voted for it, a lot of us voted against it. But, it's one of the things that I've said for a long time. We've got to figure out in this county how we're going to handle transportation, because it's very important to this county.
Right. Well, and I always go back to what CEOs in the C-suite of these companies that are making these decisions are telling me. And what they're telling me is that everybody likes options. And that's the key thing that these CEOs continue to tell me as well as my team about. We just need options. And so that's what I gravitate towards is that, and I would love to see additional options. I know we have a phenomenal Gwinnett transit system already, but as we continue to grow as a community, I think it's something that we do need to look at and cross the T's and dot the I's, and hopefully as we continue to grow. I know the new numbers that I've seen in 2038, it was 2040, now it's moved down to 2038. Gwinnett County is going to be at 1.5 million people. If we do not have other options in regards to transportation, we're adding an additional 500,000 people to the roads. And so we have to continue to have the conversations. And I know our elected officials, they're having those conversations on a daily basis, and like I said, we're going in the right direction in regards to diversity and everything else, and I'm sure that we'll hopefully end up in the right direction in regards to transportation as well.
Well, there's a lot of people, they fear the crime element that it brings and everything, and statistics really show that way back in the day, to a certain extent, that might have had some validity.
Right.
Today, it really does not have the validity it had way back 30 years ago, 40 years ago.
Well, and I think, Rick, you hit the nail on the head. And the reason I say that is because the transportation system that it was, 40, 50 years ago is not the same transportation system that we see it currently. And I think that's why we saw the transportation system go through a little bit of a rebranding. But my wife and I, we've rode the rail system in downtown a number of different times, going to ball games, and there's never been an issue, at least not an issue that I've seen personally, and I've rode it a number of different times. And so it's like I said, I still think it's an education that needs to happen. There's a conversation that needs to continue, and I think hopefully we're going to continue that conversation in the future.
Well, I know several years ago now, I did a lot of traveling. I'm doing some transport work with juveniles. But one of the things that I did occasionally is I would go down to the Dorval station and I'd ride the bus straight into the airport, or the train. And, it's one of those things where it was not a bad experience, but the only thing that I didn't like was having to go to Dorval to do it.
Right.
If I've got to go to Dorval, for me personally, I just soon drive on down there.
Right.
So, getting the ability to have these stops up here in these transportation modes up here in the northern county, the middle county, that would mean so much more to being able to. I'd be a lot more likely if I wanted to go somewhere to take it if I could just drive over 5 miles, 10 miles from here, or 6 miles, and get on the train and go from here.
Of course. Well, and staying along the same line as we're talking about transportation. The city of Peachtree Corners is doing something that's truly phenomenal. So they have a new branding for their, lack for a better term, their test track, and it's called Curiosity Lab. And we're talking about business and we're talking about transportation. And so Curiosity Lab is it's an autonomous vehicle that is going to be running in Technology Park in the city limits of Peachtree Corners, and I think they have a grand opening and a ribbon cutting and all that good stuff on the 11th. So I think that's today, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And so so they're going to be doing announcing that and going through that entire process, and really what that builds is it's going to have these autonomous vehicles, but more importantly, it's going to have companies are going to come to Peachtree Corners in Gwinnett County to test their products. And so let me give you an example. If we have a company that is interested in testing a camera that potentially could go on an autonomous vehicle in the future, then they can put this on an autonomous vehicle within the city limits of Peachtree Corners and Tech Park and truly run it and do a real live testing that how the camera interacts with traffic and that sort of thing. But the good part about it is there's dedicated lanes with barriers on each side, and so it's not going to be in your everyday traffic, but it gives us another tool.
It's a true lab.
It's a true lab, and it gives us a tool essentially to sell to companies that are testing brand new products and that sort of thing. And so I think it's very interesting as we're having like I said, the transportation discussions, but also talking about setting us apart from the rest of the region and also the states, because they actually have a conference that are coming in regards to autonomous vehicles, and this is the first conference of its type within the United States.
That's awesome. I know you've got some good city officials there. The mayor is an interesting individual, and he's got a wide range of thought process. I'm sure he had a little bit to do with trying to get this lab going.
Oh yes, definitely. And Brian, the city manager, they really spearheaded. They got a great team down there.
Yeah. Well, there's just so much more that we could talk about. Is there anything that you want to particularly bring to light about Partnership Gwinnett that you haven't talked about?
Rick, you ask a lot of great questions. I know we went through a lot all at once, but I mean, just one thing that I like to bring up is at Partnership Gwinnett, we have 9 people that wake up every single day to recruit, retain, and expand businesses in our 5 targeted industries, and they do a great job. And our goal is continuing to grow the community, continue to create jobs, and ultimately put Gwinnetians back to work at the end of the day.
Well, awesome goal. One of the things that you haven't talked about, we'll let you throw out here right now, is if a company wants to become an investor or a partner within, how does that work? What does that entail? What comprises that?
Of course, yeah. So we the way that the best way to say that is it truly, it has to make sense. It has to make sense in the sense that as we bring on new investors, because it is a public-private partnership we are a 501c3 as well as a C6, and we do have private investors as well as investment from the differing taxing jurisdictions, and so if it has to make sense for that particular provider, and ultimately our goal is to make sure that our investors get connected with new companies that are coming in, but also our existing industry that we're working with, and make introductions and really create that ecosystem so all companies in Gwinnett continue to grow over the next couple of years.
That's fantastic. Well, I really appreciate you coming on.
Of course.
It's
Thanks
a fantastic
for having me.
Organization. I'm glad we could get a little bit of the message out here. If somebody wants to get in touch with you or with Partnership Gwinnett and talk to you about becoming an investor or just finding out more about it, how can they get you?
Yeah, so my email address is acarnes@partnershipgwinnett.com. And that's the easiest way to reach me. If you shoot me an email, I'll be more than happy to respond and shoot you some information, or you can visit our website, partnershipgwinnett.com. We're also on the second floor of the Chamber building, and so if you're eating up at Frankie's or the 1818 Club, feel free to drop in, and hopefully we're able to answer any kind of questions or concerns that you might have.
Sounds great. While we're talking about transportation, remind everybody that one of our sponsors is Soulsby's Garage at 200 Bay Creek Road, Suite 200 in Loganville, Georgia, 30052. Give John a call at 678-825-2127. He is one of the most honest people I've ever found to work on vehicles. He'll take care of you, which is what we're talking about with Gwinnett County, that people take care of you. So anyway, I want to again thank you for joining us on Case in Point, presented by Paradigm Security Services. Remember, you can join us live every Wednesday at 11:30 in the morning, or you can listen to our show anytime you want by going to businessradiox.com, clicking on Gwinnett Studio, and then, of course, click on Case in Point. Join us next week at 11:30 when we will talk with business leaders about their businesses and related security issues in today's world. Thanks again to my guest, Andrew Carnes.
Thanks for having me.
Partnership Gwinnett. And for our producers, Mike and Trey, I'm Rick Strawn. And remember, at Paradigm Security Services, we cover more than just your assets.